You know, I was actually listening to both of you earlier, and I don't know if it's good karma or if it's just a pure coincidence, but I actually realized that, you know, with innovations come from inspirations, and inspirations come from visionaries, people with great minds. And all three of you come from countries that had great visions. Visions from the king in Bhutan, vision from our late king in Thailand, and vision from Sheikh Zayed here in the UAE. It is the year of the 100th anniversary of Sheikh Zayed here. And if you look back at the history, if you've never seen it before, go and search online and find a time lapse of either Dubai or Abu Dhabi or of the UAE in general. And it's absolutely amazing within a minute how you see the transformation of this country. And I also found too a good relationship with Sultan and his team, that Emirati people are really proud of their achievements. And earlier in our conversations, you've mentioned about not only the innovations, but the culture of innovations that you have here in the UAE and Abu Dhabi and Al Ain. So I'd like you to share that with us for a minute.
Thank you so much, Mario. And I would like to welcome everyone again to UAE, Abu Dhabi, and Al Ain City. Just to give you an example of how fast the development happened in the UAE and Abu Dhabi in particular. So for example, my father, he is alive now, went to Abu Dhabi on camels. And that's only one generation before me. So imagine what happened. All these development were in different sectors: tourism, oil and gas, manufacturing, education and training, and so on. So how we managed to achieve that? Because our late president, the founder of UAE, Sheikh Zayed, believed in one thing: people. If you invest in people, and if you invest wisely in people, everything is possible. So that was the initiation point when we invested in people, and through that investment, we managed to get all of this development and everything that you see here. Second, we had a culture of there's nothing is impossible. Everything is possible if you have the willpower after it, if you have the determination after it. So you can see that all of these development happened in that short period of time. If you take that, for example, to any place in the world, they will say, that is not possible, this cannot be. But it happened here because of the culture of not saying no, and nothing is impossible. As a government entity, I think we need to continue, when I say tourism sector in particular, we need to continue on this aspiration, we need to continue on these principles and fundamentals to sustain what we achieved. So we do invest heavily in our people. We assure that they get the best training, the best exposure worldwide, because that will be transferred to the institution, transferred to the organization, and thus will manage the continuous development of the tourism sector. Another component is on the regulation side. So as a government entity, we need to assure that we have the right regulation and policies to allow any innovation. For example, let's say Airbnb or Uber or whatever will come in the future. We should not be resisting these changes. We need to accommodate to these changes. We need to allow them to happen. So that is in our culture in DCT. We are assuring that every new innovation, any new trends, disruptive technology, we are there ahead of it to assure its integration with the overall process. And finally, we need to assure that there are an incubator, there are seed fund to encourage these people, the smart people, to come to UAE, to choose Abu Dhabi as their place to present and to grow their ideas. So we came with this project, which is called Fikra. You can also search online on it. So Fikra is a project that DCT, ADNEC, Etihad Airways, Miral, and Abu Dhabi Global Market together. It's a seed fund, $100,000, if they manage to solve one problem that each of these entities are facing, from a tourism point of view, as a venue, as Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Center, as the airline, and so on. We have also introduced a new program called Abu Dhabi Advantage Events. So if you have an event and you want to have this event to take place in Abu Dhabi, we will support you to have this event if and only if if it has something new and special. So as I mentioned now, it's a continuation of what we used to have before. We're trying to embed this culture today and forward, and to assure that we play our role as a government entity to enable innovation to take place and to happen as we go. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we live in a world that actually moves at the speed of light. Everything changed so fast. So I'd like to ask all three of you, how do you stay ahead of the game? How do you continuously innovate and be different and always be ahead of anyone else? What are the procedures or the way you work maybe with your team or within your offices? What do you do differently? Or what do you read, or who inspires you? Karma.
Well, for me, as mentioned earlier, we work really closely with our drivers and guides, people that are in the field, the trekking employees and all that, during the lean tourist season. That's the time to pick their brains. And some of the things that come with is amazing. I mean, we always say, two heads better than one. So we have this room full of your own people that are so passionate about talking about your business, how do you improve, and what kind of products that we need to deliver to the clients out there, because they are the first-hand contact with your clients, although you are planning everything. So some of the things that we started doing through the recommendation of our field people are about designing products within the company that's really experiential and community-based, and everything is about empathy these days and community, and how best things that can really help the community. We champion ecotourism. They want to see that. And it's no more about that very generic itineraries that we create within the company. We have moved a little ahead from our competitors by trying to produce those. Supposing we, for example, we just initiated a trek in central Bhutan in my hometown called the GNS Trek, which means Trek with Gross National Happiness, which was coined by our king in 1974. And on that, when you have the happiness theme in your itinerary, you are forced to do so many things to engage your clients, how to make them happy. To engage your clients, how to make it experiential, how they can talk to the local villagers, how to get involved, eating with them, cooking with them, or sometimes even using their guest homes to sleep and all that. So those things are very important, and all these come from our in-house employees.
Good. Don't forget, if you have any questions, to post them on Slido. Kunachi.
So for product innovation, the process, I think at Hivestore, because we are a very, like the young generation kind of company, so we adopt the process of startup. The way that we develop the new product, we make it quick, we make it fast. We don't want to spend the whole year developing, and then all of a sudden when we launch, we found customer doesn't like it. So what we do is that we start with the ideas. Once the idea, and then we develop, and then we test, and then we refine. And then this is like the loop that we're working on. And in at the very beginning, it took quite some time, like for about 6 months. But these days, once we really get a nail on it, it's become to like 2 to 3 weeks. So we save a lot of time and energy and the budget. And the idea of the new ideas for the product, it comes from so many sources. Like, for example, sometimes we just talk among our team and be like, hey, why don't we do this? And then we're like, okay, let's do it and try. Or sometimes our suppliers, like the grandma and aunties, say like, hey, I have another idea. Can I twist this activity and do it like that? We're like, oh, that's cool. And then another point that we really focus in is listening to customers. And whenever I have, for example, whenever I have free time, I always go on a trip with my clients so that I hear the feedback on the spot. They'd be like, hey, Ashi, I would love if you add this. Or, you know, maybe there's another way to do this, and another client would like. So we bring the idea from all the sources, and then we refine. And then every morning on Monday, we have the team meeting, and we brainstorm of like, hey, what's last week that it's worked, and what we can do better. So I think that's like the process that we've been working on.
Before we move to Sultan, I believe we have a question which is specific to ISTER. They want to know, are you sharing the revenue with the communities?
Yeah, so the model is, if it's the revenue for 100%, so 70% go back to the local communities, and 30% we taking back to operate and run our business. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sultan, about the innovation process within Abu Dhabi.
So we'll speak in particular on DCT, the Department of Culture and Tourism. So innovation is mainly, for us, is a culture. So we need to embed that in everyone's day-to-day thinking, day-to-day process, and so on. And for that, we have developed innovation committees with defined themes for them to think of as well. And based on that, we define what are the best ideas and reward them as we go, and so on and so forward. So basically, we have that in place. So the, let's say, innovation committee, and assure that the culture within DCT and the people, the employees, are geared toward getting new ideas, geared toward understanding what's happening, what's new, and based on that, how can they embed this as part of their day-to-day work. The second thing that we're doing as well when it comes to innovation is we're doing future insight. So we understand and we research what are the main changes that will happen in the future that might impact the tourism sector, when it comes to aviation, when it comes to accommodation, and so on and so forward. So we're talking about a horizon of 20 years, 25 years as well. And based on that, how can we design our strategies, our directions, that once these changes are happening, we are set, we are ready, we are equipped, we have the right people, the right process, the mindset to enable this and to bridge to the new direction. Finally, we assure that we communicate directly with our stakeholder, either locally or internationally. We don't have any barriers when it comes to listening to them, their requirements, their challenges, their issues, and also based on that, how can we reflect that back to our regulation, our processes, and so on. So we don't think as a government entity that this should happen and you need to apply. No, it's more of a partnership spirit. We are here to serve you. We are here to enable you to achieve your objective, and then let us know what is required and how can we serve you even better. And that is the spirit that we are taking it forward.
I believe you actually answered one of the questions here is how Abu Dhabi is different, why is it different? And I think when I think about what you describe and what Sheikh Zayed had as a vision is long-term planning. Your planning goes way, way into the future, which is something quite often I commented at previous events and conferences that we're lacking within our industry. We tend to actually think of short-term decisions, short-term results, short-term implications. But in the case of your country and your city, you're actually thinking longer terms about the trends and the new technologies that are actually developing and new services that are developing to make sure you adapt to it, which is, I believe, actually quite remarkable. Actually, this leads well to the next question from the audience about, are there any cities around the world that inspires Abu Dhabi, that are actually admired, that you wish you're trying to be better, or?
So, when the tourism sector or DCT was created in 2000, let's say, 2005, there was nothing called tourism sector in Abu Dhabi. And we had this aspiration to be a world-leading tourism and cultural destination. So since that day, we started with around 7,000 hotel rooms, 1 million hotel guests. Today, we have 30,000 hotel rooms, 5 million hotel guests, 10,000 hotel rooms in the pipeline, and we're expecting to reach 8.5 million hotel guests. So the aspiration is how to grow tourism sector, but yet how to preserve our culture and heritage. And based on that, yes, there are so many cities that we would like to be like, but not as them exactly. Let's say, for example, Dubai is our sister city. We would like to develop some areas that Dubai has, but also we're looking to other experiences and other cities. For example, we're focusing heavily on culture and authenticity, and based on that, probably you can see like Paris, for example, is something that we benchmark ourselves with, based on the Louvre that we have, the Guggenheim under construction, and Sheikh Zayed Museum. So I cannot say that there is one city in particular, but there are so many areas and so many cities that we would like to be as good as these cities. But ultimately, we want to be known as us, as Abu Dhabi, our DNA. And based on that, all the development that you can see is geared around differentiating ourselves, being more authentic, and to position ourselves as a leading tourism and cultural destination.
Karma and Konachi, there's a growing trend around the world for businesses to making a conscious decision to have a positive impact on the world, trying to not only focus on making profit and making money, but actually leaving a positive impact on communities and the people surrounding you. And both of your businesses are actually focused around communities. So the question to you, and I think many of the audience would probably think the same thing, is it more difficult to create a business around leaving a positive impact on communities rather than just focusing on profit? And what are some of the challenges?
For us, having been a player for about 25 years, gave us some edge in rethinking of how we do our businesses, about sustainable tourism, which is very difficult in many ways because for the danger of being seen as greenwashing and showing off that you're not really on the ground doing things, but on the paper you talk of so many things. So some of the things that you have to just go and do it by taking risk. And for us, we also own some hotels, and some of these hotels, what we did was we installed sewage treatment plants that cost about $200,000, not knowing what the return actually would be. We also went ahead and hired a professional from Australia, an officer who helped us develop our SOP for sustainable practices within the company that will help the employees as well as the company and all that. And these do not give you immediate returns, but in the long run, we are hoping that this is better for the betterment of the society, the place you stay in, the community that you have around you and all that. And in some ways, it's already starting to pay off. For example, our hotel in Bhutan, where the airport is, it's a 45-room lodge. It's a heritage hotel, and now we received an accolade of National Geographic Unique Lodge, and which is really helpful because all the National Geographic trips that come to Bhutan, their first choice of stay has to be that hotel. So it's in some ways paying off. And if you think the returns are slow, you have to hang in there and keep doing it genuinely. And there are some instances when people see you and reward you accordingly.
So for Hivestore, we are a social enterprise, so we are carrying the two missions. One is the business side, and the second one is the impact side. I think personally, from my own experience, starting a business is hard, but starting a social enterprise, to be honest, is even harder. Because for business, you have one key main objective is to make money. But for us, as a social enterprise, you carry the two objectives that you have to achieve. And the challenge here is to balance the two, because not to have one or another that's our behavior, because then you lose track of what you're doing. So that's, to answer your question, I think the challenge here is to balance. How can we move forward with the two objectives that keep going? Yeah.
I see the big clock flashing in front of me, so we're running out of time. But I'd like to ask a brief questions to all three of you. Who is your superhero? Who inspires you in doing what you do every day? Karma.
My superhero is my king. He is the champion of sustainability, I believe, not only in Bhutan, but across the world also, because of his philosophy in gross national happiness and not gross domestic product.
Actually, can I have two?
You can have two.
So, to be too obvious is our king, and because also sustainability is one of the key drive that he's trying to push forward, and that's, I think, is embraced in what we do every day in Thailand. And my second hero actually is Oprah Winfrey. I admire and inspire by her because she actually started from nothing and to achieve this far, and she used her expertise and in her power in a positive impact. She used her platform to transform lives and make life for people, not only physically, but mentally to the positive level. So the two are my heroes, yeah.
I think our UAE founder, Sheikh Zayed, what he achieved to this country, what he achieved to me personally, to see my father and grandfather, where we used to be and how we lived in this country and where are we now in less than 50 years, I think there's no one for me to look after or to look at better than Sheikh Zayed. My father as well, he inspired me a lot. He planted this aspiration. He planted in me this eagerness to develop and to grow. And I'm here today because of his blessing and because of his wisdom.
And let me share mine with you for a second. Take a couple of extra seconds here. Mine won't surprise some of you who knows me because I'm from a technology background. It's actually Elon Musk. Now, not because he's actually from technology. I admire him because he actually dares to do the impossible. He actually dares to take risk where nobody else would actually want to take risk. And for that, I actually have great admirations for what he's doing and what he's done and what he will do into the future. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.